Well, first of all, just let me say that it's a real pleasure to be here. This is my second year, and I have to say to Farley and Elizabeth, they've done a phenomenal job, and it's better this year than it was last year. And what I mostly noticed was the caliber of the entrepreneurial companies that we met yesterday and today and tomorrow. And this is all about you. This conference has all of us that are kind of hanging around, the investors and all the other services here. But at the end of the day, we live for the entrepreneurs. My job, my life is centered around entrepreneurs and how to help them succeed by giving them money and other advice. But I never want to forget that. Some of the people in my business think that they were responsible for the success of their investments. Nothing could be farther from the truth. You, the entrepreneur, live with this thing 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, year over year over year. And we show up every now and then, sprinkle a little advice, and hope the results are good. But you know more about that business than we'll ever know, and it's our job to support you in every way we can. So while I'm here, I hope to talk to every one of you who have either started a company, intend to start a company, or want additional funding for further growth, or any other questions that you may have of someone who's been around a little bit. So rather than give a formal pitch or formal presentation or formal speech that I've done a million times in the past, I really want to go over today 8 questions that I'm constantly asked from entrepreneurs. Short little questions we'll go over in some level of detail, and then at the end we'll have a surprise from a young man who was here last year that ended up coming to the States to follow me around for 90 days. And we'll bring him up to the stage to talk about his experiences hanging out with me, which is always a challenge, to say the least. So the first question, Jane, is the Midas Touch Award, and the Midas Award is an award given by Forbes magazine every May or June of each year, and that award names the top 100 VCs for the previous year. So in May of this year, I was one of the top 100 VCs in the world. I mean, I know it's hard to believe, but it's true.
Not again.
Now, did it play it? So the question always is, how do I get the Midas touch? And you know, I'm not here to brag about any of my Midas touch stuff. What's really important is what you've done or what the entrepreneur have done for my success. Now, in 2012, I was fortunate enough to have 3 public offerings of substantial size, Guidewire, Enphase, and Eloqua, and 2 major M&A transactions, Buddy Media and ZenPrize. Guidewire was one of the most successful ones of the year, of that particular year. It came out early in the year, and one thing to note about Guidewire, it was not an overnight success. We did Guidewire in 2002, so 10 years later it went public. It had a checkered past. It had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of issues, but at the end, it's a very, very successful company, and it's a tribute to the management team and a little bit by the investors hanging with it for the right period of time. But it turned out to be a major success, and they're having lots of success going forward, and it's worth over $3 billion in market cap today. The other notable one was Eloqua. We took Eloqua public in August of 2013 and sold it to Oracle for $1 billion in December. A highly unusual transaction in the sense that it went public in August, and we got a major multiple on that public price in December. Very unusual circumstance. In the case of Buddy Media, it was a fairly small company, New York-based, and it turned out that it was a very popular company in the M&A world, and there were several large companies that were interested in purchasing the company, and we got ourselves in the middle of a kind of a quote-unquote bidding war. Things happened, and Salesforce purchased the company for probably a little bit more than we all expected. So that kind of concludes the reason that I was named one of the Midas winners. It's a great honor, but at the end, I'm always reminded of what got me here, and I'm only as good as my last deal and how successful it is, and I'm only as good as you, the entrepreneur, that made me successful. Because without you, without your support and making it better, it never gets there. So I never want to forget my roots, and it's a fun business, and I will keep it up, and I hope I can do the same thing in 2013. 2013, the year we're in today. So one of the questions that is always asked of me is, what deals did we turn down? What deals have we seen over the years that we said, nope, that's not going to be a winner, and we're not going to invest in that particular deal? Sir. Regrets. Well, the first one, it was mentioned this morning, Splunk. The biggest big data company public today. And Splunk was an opportunity that we looked at many, many years ago. And I had a different team and a different strategy at the time, but we were too smart for doing Splunk. So we turned that down, and of course we're unhappy that that happened to us, obviously. Another one, I mentioned in my bio about Starbucks, but I was an initial investor in Starbucks personally, but my partnership was way too smart for us to invest in Starbucks. When I brought Starbucks to my firm as a fairly new venture partner with Bay, it was obviously a high-risk consumer idea, and we didn't do consumer at the time, but I was so impressed with Howard Schultz and his passion for his people, his product, and his idea that I said, I don't care if it's a consumer deal. I don't care if it's a simple coffee shop idea. This guy's going to be successful one way or another. And when I looked at this thing, there was like 4 stores, 2 of which were failing badly. But he was so he was so emotional and tied up in this idea that I knew he was going to be successful. And I've taken that to looking at every opportunity that I see. I really look for the passion in the entrepreneur's voice and his attitude and his actions about his idea, his company, and his people. So Howard taught me a whole lot. He's a good friend of mine, but Bay Partners was not an investor. It was just me personal. And by Howard's own admissions, he never expected what had happened. First Starbucks was a walk-in with no chairs. You get in, take your quick slug of coffee like they do in Italy, and leave. It all morphed into this massive social revolution where he's really, in essence, changed the world's people's behavior, which is something he didn't expect. Another deal we didn't do is Coinstar, the company that changes coins. Now they have Redbox and several other products. Huge success. I couldn't convince my partners that it was a good deal. Again, I thought it was going to be a big winner, but now we passed on that. So another one. Another one is a security company called Fortinet in Silicon Valley. I loved that opportunity. Just thought it was the greatest, but my senior partner said, no, we don't like that deal. Well, so Bay didn't invest in all 4 of those, and I certainly wish we would have. Then there was deals that we wanted to get in, that we were on our knees to get in. We just knew they would be successful, and the biggest one of all was Google. We saw Google Series A, ground zero, and the 2 guys were a bit arrogant, but they were pretty smart guys, and they had a right to, because in their back pocket was a $100 million pre-money deal. So they didn't have time for Neal Dempsey and Bay Partners. Are you kidding? We'll be happy to listen to you guys and tell us why you think we should take your money, but at the end, they didn't do it. So we saw it, but didn't win it. Epiphany was another story that we knew the founders, we knew the investors, and there just wasn't any room. I was on my knees on several occasions, but I couldn't get into that deal. Another one was Concur up in Seattle. They really liked me, wanted to be involved, but the current investors decided to take it all. So we didn't get in that deal either. So it just shows you lose a lot of deals even if you want to do them. So my point is that even us, the big bad venture guys, are vulnerable. The classic win of all time was a company called Shiva. It was Kleiner Perkins and Greylock and us. And Kleiner Perkins and Greylock had the deal wrapped up. But I met the two entrepreneurs. This was a company that was in Cambridge, Mass. Two young guys were out of MIT, and they had the first networking product for the Apple that we morphed into the PC. And I worked my tail off and got on my knees several times, convincing these guys that I could bring value to their board and value to their company. They would just take a little bit of money from Bay, not as much as KP or Greylock, but just a little bit. So at the end, they said, "Well, Neal, I think we're convinced that we'll take your money." I said, "Okay." He said, "There's just one more thing. See those rollerblades down there? We were in an office about half as big as this stage in a bad part of Cambridge, if there is such a thing. And they said, 'Put those rollerblades on. We're going rollerblading.' How many times you rollerbladed?" "Oh, never." So I put them on, and we out we went to the main part of Cambridge, and I literally went from side to side, from lamppost to lamppost, from car to falling down 15 or 20 times, and finally we got to a cafe and we had a quick coffee or something, and they said, "You're not a very good rollerblader, are you? Are you a good investor or a venture capitalist as you're rollerblading?" I said, "Well, I think I'm better than that, but so we'll give you one more chance. You got to rollerblade back and you can't fall down." So okay, that's a good test. And anyway, I did it, got through it, and at the end they said, "We were gonna let you invest anyway, but we just wanted to test you." So the point is that we don't always get what we want. Even you all, but you all probably think we do. But you got to get on your knees even to get in deals on occasion. And you do turn deals down for the wrong reasons. You do turn deals down because your partners have a different opinion than you do. You're not a solo in any of these firms. And so it was an interesting experience, turning things down and then also winning one at Shiva. So what are the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make? I think the biggest glaring issue that we see constantly are listening skills. Entrepreneurs tend not to listen to the point that they need to. Now, they need to be headstrong and firm and decisive, but at the end of the day, they need to listen. Is that the end? I don't know. So if you don't listen, you're not going to be able to hire A players. And you can't succeed without A players. A players are not going to work for you if you don't listen to what they have to say, take in their information, and decide one thing or another. You're not going to be able to talk to prospects, customers, investors, or anyone else unless you have the ability to listen and sort out what they're saying and communicate effectively with others. It's the biggest common problem that we see. You guys are very headstrong, and rightly so, but sometimes you tend not to listen. Entrepreneurs also tend to focus on their strengths, which is important. However, it's sometimes important to also focus on what are not your strengths. I started 2 companies, and you'll be happy to know that they both failed for different reasons, but failure turned out to be a good thing for me. First one was I was a pretty effective sales and marketing executive. I did have a real job at one time in my life, and so my first startup was a quality technology company that was venture capital funded, but I ran it like a sales and marketing organization. I didn't spend enough time with the product marketing people. I didn't spend enough time with the development people. I spent little time with finance. I was out selling. I was out there getting orders, making things happen, but at the end we couldn't deliver because I wasn't back at the ranch worrying about what I didn't know best. I really didn't focus hard enough on what was really important to the company. Sales and marketing were an easy part, because I was good at that and I had the right people that helped me, but I didn't focus on the finance side hard enough. And more important, I didn't focus on the development and the product management part, product marketing part. So my lesson there was, you take your strengths, but you also take your weaknesses, and you work a lot harder on your weaknesses than you do on your strengths, because your strengths are a given. They're there. Another thing to think about, and what happens in these early stage companies, is let your managers, let your staff, let your leaders lead. Let them manage their departments. Don't micromanage them. You've hired them because they're great, they're good at it, and let them go do what they're supposed to do. Even if they make a mistake, just make sure it's not catastrophic. They will learn and they'll learn a lot by managing what they're supposed to be managing. Don't get in their Levi's. Don't get in their way. Let them go do what they're supposed to do. You can't do it all. Don't think you can. So don't micromanage your key staff that you bring in there to run this business to help you succeed. The last thing is a relationship with the board, the big bad board. Boards are advisors. Boards are not there every day. Boards know enough to be dangerous, but are not running the business. They know a little strategy, they know a little finance, they know the list, a little that, but at the end, they're there once a month. The better venture guys are there once a week to talk to them, every other week. But what happens is we have 10, 15 companies. We're looking at new deals all the time. We have forgetfulness on occasion. Yet we come into a board meeting and we're all geniuses. We all know everything. And we're giving all this advice out. Take that advice, listen carefully, and if you think it's good advice, then that's good. But if you think it's not good advice, then say, thank you very much for the advice, but I think I'm going to do it in a different manner, or any kind of subtle way to say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with that advice, and I'm running the company. As long as I'm here to run this company, I'm going to do what I think is right. The biggest mistake young entrepreneurs make is they'll do whatever we say, and that's wrong. That's wrong almost every time, because we're not there enough to know. So I've had discussions with two of who turned out to be really, really good executives. I said, quit doing what we tell you to do. You do what you think is right. Both these people have gone on to build really, really successful businesses. One is going to be public in probably about 4 or 5 months. But at first, he was doing everything we said. It was ridiculous. I said, this is not good. You're waiting for us to come in and tell you what to do. That's not going to work. That dog doesn't hunt. Just go do it yourself. So don't take the board as the group that is all smart and knows everything. Do it in a subtle manner that absolutely is communicative with your board, because they are your investors. They do write checks and they can fire you. But they are not necessarily the smartest guys on the planet when it comes to the day-to-day operations of your business, period. Okay, number 4, choosing a VC. How do you choose a VC? Now, isn't that interesting? Anybody who has money? Maybe. First of all, there's no bad VC.
James.
Period. Is that thing working, by the way? I haven't. Has it? Is it? Okay. Is it funny? You're not, you're not laughing. Huh? Am I talking over it? Somebody's got to tell me. How do you choose the right VC and the wrong VC? Well, there are no bad VCs, so the question really is, you have venture capitalists with different experiences, different maturity, different backgrounds, big firms, small firms, medium-sized firms, and you need to approach that if you have a lot of people to talk to, and there's several companies here that are far enough along that I know that you're talking to multiple venture capitalists about investing in your company. Then you kind of subtly interview the venture guys as they're looking at your company, just like we interview you. Don't make it so obvious that you're interviewing them, but we are an open book. Everybody that I've ever invested in, good, bad, and the ugly, every board member, every member of management, everybody that's associated with any of these 100 companies I've invested in is available. Some people think I'm an asshole. Some people like me. Some people say he's okay. Some people he doesn't add any value. You got it all. You got the whole spectrum. So go sort that out and see if that makes sense to you, because it's all out there. Don't be afraid to talk to other people about references or backgrounds, or did you like the firm or did you like the guy. Now, some firms have a tendency to bring the big guy in to make the big sale and making sure that the firm is going to get the opportunity to invest in your company. Like the Google thing, probably we weren't big enough to matter. And then at the end they'll say, okay, well, Mr. Big is too, or Mrs. Big is too big, and you're going to get the new young guy as your board member. Well, that sometimes is a hard thing to overturn, but if you can do it, do it. You want the most senior VC on your board as you can get, because it'll really help you in the long run. You get the whole firm to support you, but if you can have the most effective, most experienced, most mature, most VC that's relevant to your particular business is important, because all of us are a bit specialized. Some of us do enterprise software, some of us do social media, some of us do a big hardware-oriented stuff, some of us do mobile. We're all in various categories, and so you don't want a mobile genius worrying about something that's an enterprise necessarily. So that's a hard thing to deal with, but it's just important to be aware of it. And at Bay, we will have in 3 or 4 companies a week, and some have just fabulous ideas, and teams that have serious issues, and some have just a terrible idea, but really a quality team. So we never discourage either one. We will just make some subtle suggestions that, if you thought about a product that have these kinds of features with this great team, then we might be interested. Now, you want to go away and think about that and come back or iterate on it or take a week or two or a month or whatever you want, we're happy. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of other firms out there. We're on Sand Hill Road. Here are the names. There's another 150 firms you can go talk to. They may be interested, as it is, but it is not the right opportunity for Bay. In the case of a good team, but or the idea is bad, in the same scenario, we never discourage any entrepreneur and any team, ever. It's our lifeblood. It's who we are. It's what we do. Without that, we're just not anything. So you want them to go away and come back with ideas more refined, or you want them to go away with a little bit better team, or if they don't come back, then they found some other firm that decided to do the deal. So more power for them. But without them coming to us initially, then we wouldn't even know about it. So it's a great thing. So at the end, choosing the VC is kind of a tricky process. But if you don't get along with your venture capitalists, you don't get along with your board, it's your fault. It's never our fault. We are those that write the checks. We try to get along, always. Good communications, always open book. But If you don't, you find out why. Start say, we're not getting along here. You're not understanding us. Something's wrong with this communication. Get to the bottom of it right now. Don't let it fester. Never let it fester, ever. Because if you do, it'll just be a miserable experience, period. So the next one is what is the next one?
Neal?
Yeah?
Have you made a decision yet?
Oh,
Neal?
making a decision.
Neal? Neal?
Yes. This. I'm lost. Yeah, sorry. Choosing a VC. Yeah. Pardon me while I'm finding my way around here. So how do you measure gut? How do you measure gut? How do you measure? Well, I think the question is sometimes you have to make a decision in the absence of full information. How do you measure the gut feel? Basically, the way you measure the gut feel is whenever you're looking at a opportunity, you spend a lot of time with the team, not just the CEO and the two or three key people, but everybody on that team, if it exists, or if it doesn't exist, the people that are there. You're in their offices on a regular basis for 2 or 3 hours. You talk to more than just one or two. You talk to as many people as they've currently hired. You get them out socially. You get to know them. You get to know how they think, how they tick. You ask them what they think of failure. You see if they failed in the past somewhere. You may meet their family. You find out what they do in their off time. You just kind of you kind of circle the entire wagon of the person's personality and what drives them. And you do that across the whole staff. And as you talk to other members of staff, they'll tell you different things about the team. You'll learn the strengths and weaknesses of that team, irrespective of all the exhaustive work you've done on the product, the technology, the market, and all the opportunities. It's all about the people at that case. So then all of a sudden you got to make a call. Well, you make that call based on the gut you found with the people. That's how you do it. But your gut says do it or don't do it based on the information you found. You also look for clues of bad behavior. There are on occasion bad behavior issues, like lying. The forecast, the technology, the customers, something went awry in the due diligence or just subsequent to when your decision is to make that investment. And I'll never forget one. There was a company in Seattle that we ended up investing in. But after the first board meeting, the sales exec pulled me aside and said, "Neal, we've been lying to you. We don't have as many satisfied customers as we purported. We aren't making our forecast, haven't for the last quarter, and the pipeline isn't what we say it is, blah, blah, blah. And I want you to know the truth." And so I said, "That's interesting." And that all transpired because I had this relationship with that person in the due diligence and the time I spent with the company. And it turned out that guy was lying in more than just that case, and we had to end up replacing him. So that does happen in early stage companies. Not often, but it does happen. There's exaggeration, and there's stretching the truth, and there's doing those things that sometimes are commonplace, but bold-faced lying and misrepresentation of the information is just not a good thing, and we had to make the change. But it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. So just be aware that it could be. So how do you make a quick decision? Next, Jane.
What's he doing?
There's a bomb in the copy room.
Absence of all the information and the exhaustive due diligence and all the other stuff that we do for a living day in and day out, and grinding down in the data and meeting with the partners and meeting with the companies and doing all the stuff that goes on. Sometimes just do it. Make the call. If you're right, it's great. If you're wrong, fix it. Just make the call. So whatever you're doing in your little businesses, whatever it is, and you're all nervous about it, you think it might go right or might go wrong, if you feel like you should do it, do it. We'll fix it if it's wrong, and if it's right, everybody wins. So you just got to make the call. And you're going to have to do that a lot early on. Make the call, because if you don't, you're indecisive. And that's a bad trait. It's a real bad trait. So, next thing is right pathway to IPO or M&A. Is this it? Exits. What is the exit? Knowing your exits. IPO or M&A? Well, IPO, of course, is just another step. It's another financing. Yeah, it's kind of a milestone financing, and everybody thinks they've made a little money because they're looking at their shares they own or have vested in, and to see the public price. And the investors have the same outlook. But it's a long ways from putting the ball in the end zone. You're restricted. You can't sell anyway as an early stage owner, both venture side as well as the management team, and you got to make your earnings and your numbers every quarter. So the question of going public is really, really a big one. Does the company have the horsepower, the management team to do it? Do they have a predictable revenue stream? Are they growing dramatically? Are they number one or number two in their category? And a whole long list of stuff. So it is not an easy decision. Now, personally, being a high wire guy that I am, I always want to go for the big one, and I'll wait to get it out when it's appropriate. I mean, the guys at Guidewire, when we indicated to them it might be a good idea to go public in late 2011, said, "Oh no, we don't want to do that. We're not ready to go public. Oh no, it's just too hard. And we got this, we got that. Things are good." And we said, "Well, we think you're going to need the cash to expand, and now we have the opportunity. We've been growing well. We're making money, profitable, big cash flow generator." Oh no, they were just nervous. So in essence, in that case, the board said, "We're going public, boys. Sign up." And of course they did. I wouldn't say it was reluctantly, but they did sign up. And of course, when we went public and it performed admirably, and they had the first quarter results, and they were just rolling big. They thought they were geniuses. Well, they were. And we complimented them forever. They were geniuses going public. But I'll always go for that, because in that case, we had a major U.S. Company make an offer to buy Guidewire about a year and a half before we decided to go public. And it was less than $1 billion sell price, but at the end it would have been a big return for most of us, because there was only 2 investors in this company. But we turned it down, and now it's worth $3 billion. So even the investors are geniuses in this case. But so I'm going to go for it, but I'm not going to go for it unless I have the team and the horsepower and the growth and the big market share. Otherwise, it's not going to necessarily perform. And there's nothing worse than a company that doesn't perform in the public market, because then you got a living dead situation. You can't sell it. You have a bunch of cash, and the company's not performing. So I will always be very cautious about going public, but I'd rather do that every time than I would M&A. Now, because M&A it's final. Once you sell it, it's gone. Now, the good news is you get cash. For the most part, you get cash and you move on. Now, why sell it? Well, the one obvious reason is you get an offer you can't refuse. I mean, but that's an unusual situation like we had with Buddy Media. Most of the time, it's a question of sometimes there's founder fatigue, management fatigue. They aren't growing at the rate we think they need to grow at to get a good public offering. And they're losing market share. They're losing people. There's always an issue or two surrounding an M&A. So they're valuable. They're big businesses, but for some reason, one way or another, they're not public company worthy at this point. Now I'm willing to sit on it and roll until we get that opportunity, but it isn't always that case. So oftentimes we will decide to help the company sell it or put it in an auction or get somebody interested. And a lot of times, matter of fact, most of the time, somebody has made an offer or made a foray. And all of our CEOs are taught to always be talking to strategic partners. The case, you talk to IBM, you talk to SAP, you talk to Salesforce, you talk to Oracle. All the big boys are always talked to, and they're business development guys to try to do strategic deals that end up being, could be at one point or another an M&A transaction. In the case of Eloqua that we took public in August and sold in December, that was absolutely a product of the CEO spending lots of time with the BD people at all the usual suspects, Oracle, IBM, SAP, et cetera, Salesforce. And because of that, there was a relationship, and they saw the results of the IPO. They saw how big the company was. They saw how many customers they had. And they said, this is a no-brainer. They paid for it. So that does happen. So good CEOs are always working the BD guys at the big strategics because you need their money, you need their support, or else you need them to buy you at some point if need be, or if they want to. Best is if they want to. So I'm a big IPO guy, but I've had my good share of M&As and over the time. We've sold, God, I think I've had 50 M&As over the years, but there's been some really big ones, and there are also some ones I feel like we shouldn't have sold. We should have gone public, and that's always mixed emotion when you think, boy, you could have got a lot more, but everybody's happy, the management team's happy, and that's what's most important. So that's really kind of the M&A strategy. One thing I will say though is when I hear a presentation by any entrepreneur about any product idea or any company, don't ever tell me about liquidity. I don't want to hear about liquidity. You and your team need to go build a big successful business. Then we'll have liquidity options out our rear. I don't ever want to hear about that because it's just not true. If you don't build a big business, you're never going to sell it. You're never going to take it public. So let's worry about building this business, and all that liquidity stuff will come to you one way or another. The other thing to realize on an M&A, you, the team, do have some leverage. Now, it's kind of subtle, but you do, because the big boys want you and your team. They want your customer base. They want your presence. They want your market share, and they want the company. Us, the naked VCs, we're just baggage. We're just in the way. Now, we're going to be not in the way because we want to get the best price. But at the end, if we can't get the best price and the management team want to sell, we need to roll over and do what the team wants to do. Now, that's very subtle, but it happens. And more power to the management team for driving that to us that are kind of one-way thinkers at times. It's very important to know that. It's happened, and it's happened to the benefit of the management team and the entrepreneurs, which is fine with me. So, the last thing is this stay or quit. sometimes when you've given it all, you're at the end, and it's probably time for somebody else to run the company, or it's time to merge it someplace, or it hasn't been quite as successful as we all like. Sometimes you got to hang it up. You got to move on. I mean, I'm the classic case of an entrepreneur that failed not once, twice. First time it took a year to piss away about $10 million, and the second time it took about 2.5 years to spend more than that. And it was my fault. I take the blame. I was the CEO. I was the one that put the thing together. We got the venture capitalist money. We did all we could do, and there's a million excuses, but at the end, it's me. So I said, it's time to get rid of me. Something is wrong with me. Now, somebody else should run this company, and here's some recommendations to you, but I'm out. Per your thoughts, I'm out of here, and, go away. So I said, okay, I'm fine. Now, the good news was that one of the investors thought I was okay and said, hey, since you've lost all this money, you probably know how to lose money. But now, maybe you know how to make money if you come into Bay Partners. And we'll give you a desk and an associate job, and let's see what happens. Well, third time's the charm. It all happened 20 years ago. Anyway, that's it. That's the story on the questions that I get. There's probably a lot more questions, but just before I finish, Harry Marshall is over here to my left and to your right. And last White Bull, Harry was here as the conference's photographer. Harry is quite the accomplished photographer. Taught photography here in Barcelona. Matter of fact, taught his lovely girlfriend that he met in class. And he also has started 2 companies that are both UK-based. Are they both? They're both UK-based, but he moved to Barcelona. And he said, I'd like to go out to the West Coast and learn about venture capital. And he told that to Jane, who she and I work together. Jane, of course, is the Incendio, who's one of the sponsors of the conference. And Jane called me and said, Neal, Harry Marshall would like to come out to California on his own nickel and follow me around for 90 days. And I said, are you crazy? I mean, what's he going to do? Get my bag or carry my lunch, or what the hell is he going to do, Because we're kind of, venture guys are gunslingers, We're always on the road, rolling different deals, seeing opportunities, and traveling like a madman, and going to all these crazy places. And he said, yep, I want to do that. So he rolls out. He came out. He showed it out in the middle of May, and we got rolling. He came into the office, and I gave him a stack of stuff to read by Monday. And he didn't read any of it, by the way. But he started going with me to our partners meetings, to all of our deal meetings, to all of my board meetings, even to my volunteer groups, which I've got a ton of all over, both in Seattle and in the Bay Area. And he went to all that. He went to he was part of my commencement speech at the University of Washington this past June. He went to Aspen with us to Ideas Fest. We got a place in Aspen and did all that stuff. So Harry was fabulous, and I really miss him. But anyway, so he's back in Barcelona now, and his business is killing it and having fun. So come on up here. He wanted to say something, I guess. But there's no more. Nobody else is going to follow me around. Sorry. No. You want to use this?
No?
There we go.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
I've been specifically told to be quick. Love the theme tune, by the way. So I think we're going to open it up to questions. But just to say, I had an amazing time following you around, Neal. Thank you so much. Incredible experience. So, yeah, I'm going to open up the questions. So if you'll allow me 20 seconds for my introduction.
Sure.
When I started working in startups a few years ago, about 2.5 years ago, I put everything else to one side on the basis that I thought that I had to be working all the time, or at least I had to be available to work all the time. And after my trip with Neal, I decided to change things up a bit, and I started kite surfing. And it's only been a month, and I'm pretty terrible at it. But I can say that in the last month, I have been more effective working during the week. I made tons more use of my spare time. I'd been better able to cope with stress and startup life. And I thought it would be a great question to start. Neal, what are the things that you do outside of the boardroom, outside of your office, that you think have contributed to your success, from running to working with the University of Washington to amazing socks? I don't know if you've seen them. You should ask. They're great. And that kind of thing.
Well, to relieve the stress of the business, and believe me, I love the business, I sailed around the world in a 51-foot Hinckley in 3 increments, 190 days at sea, 80 countries. Somewhat recently, I've climbed 6 of the 7 summits around the world, snow and ice expeditions. I've run 100 marathons, and now I run half marathons and full marathons. I was at Boston last year and was within 500 yards of the finish when the bombs went off. I'm winning my old man category for the half marathons now consistently. So I'm kind of the overachiever, crazy man, but I find that all that exercise relieves the stress and allows me to continue this kind of worldwide quest for opportunities. We have a home in Florence, Italy, and a vineyard in Tuscany, where I was before this. Do a lot of skiing and in the summer in Aspen. And we live in San Francisco, so we kind of got all of it at once. But it's so I think you relieve stress by doing those sort of physical things, but also day to day. I get up at 4:30 in the morning and I go to this thing called CrossFit, which is a total body exercise thing from 6 to 7, and you feel like $1 million all day. You can go until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. So, kind of craziness. Don't ever try to think it's good for any of you, but I'm kind of on the edge. That's it. Sorry.
I don't know if there are more questions.
Thank you, Neal.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few questions from the audience.